Alright, what's going on, you guys? Nick here with Nick Strength and Power. The 2023 Masters Mr. Olympia just wrapped up, and I want to do a little bit of a recap here. So if you go and look at the top 5, really not a surprising result at all. So in the top 5, in 5th place, you had Kenneth B. Jackson, but your top 4 was Fred Biggie Smalls in 4th, Phil Klahar wound up taking 3rd, Max Charles taking 2nd, and Kamal El Gargni taking his first Masters Olympia victory, and I think it was a truly well-deserved victory at that. So, watching the show, I was really impressed with Max Charles. I thought he looked fantastic here. One of his better packages recently. I mean, this was a pretty impressive version of Max. And I actually think in several of the poses, you could have made an argument for Max winning and beating Kamal in some of those poses. But I think overall it came down to that condition that Kamal was in, because he was pretty peeled here. He was in his traditional shape. And I think aside from conditioning, the other thing that makes Kamal so dangerous is the fact that he's so balanced. He's very well proportioned, even though he's a smaller guy, and I think that's why people write him off in some of these lineups, because he's not as big or nearly as big as the other guys. But if you look at a pose like the front lat spread for him, which because he's a smaller guy is not a very commanding pose for him. He's obviously not the biggest guy on stage, so when you're looking at the width of this pose, your eyes are probably drawn to the other guys. But if you really look at Kamal, if you split his physique straight down the middle, look at how symmetrical he is. Both sides are like exactly the same, like a mirror image of each other. And that's one of the things being judged here, symmetry. And I think Kamal is really, like I said, really well proportioned, but very, very symmetrical. So even though he's not as big as these guys, he's got a very complete, very balanced physique that's very difficult to beat because he does that with crazy conditioning. And as far as an example of a pose that I thought you could make an argument for Max, most of them I do think you would give to Kamal. I think Kamal had way better shots from the back, a lot more detail. And in a lot of the front shots, Max Charles's legs were missing that deep separation and detail that Kamal had. But an example I would say would be this side chest pose of a pose that I think you can make a strong argument for Max for. If you look at the upper body, I think for one, it's way bigger than Kamal's. And I like the way that he hits this pose a little bit better than Kamal. He brings his arm a little bit further back, so you can see really both pecs a lot better in this pose than you can on Kamal, for example. So he brings that arm a little further back and kind of turns his shoulder towards the audience, the opposite shoulder towards the audience, to show that other pec too. And you can see some pretty deep striations in his chest that I can't really see as much with Kamal. So he's got the bigger chest, the more detailed chest. You look at his shoulder and his arm, the bigger shoulder, the bigger arm, and I'd say the detail is pretty comparable between him and Kamal, in this pose at least. You look at the midsection, you can see shredded obliques and serratus on Max Charles. Kind of hard to see that on Kamal in this particular pose. And the legs, which is one of the things that I think was letting Max down here, especially with the detail, the legs look very comparable from the side, or at least a lot more comparable than in the front and back poses. But the other reason that I think this is a strong pose for Max is because this is a side pose, and the side pose doesn't really factor in the symmetry that we talked about that you can see from Kamal in the front and back poses. So in the side pose, you're not really looking at how symmetrical Kamal is here. And the scorecards just came out, so we can look at the rest of the results, and I don't know what exactly is going on with Josh Lenardowitz because he's the only person on this list listed as did not finish. That's what the DNF stands for. Because he actually did show up. I thought he might not be there because we hadn't seen any updates from him, so I thought maybe he wasn't competing anymore. But he actually was there. He was on stage. There's stage pictures of him right now. And I mean, he clearly wasn't really in the conversation with the top guys, so I wasn't really paying as much attention to him at that point. But I honestly don't know why he did not finish the show or has DNF listed next to his name. Now also, I wanted to talk about Phil Klahar, who took 3rd here. This was one of the guys that I thought was going to be a favorite going into the show, and I think he was. He was in the top 3 call-out, and based on this post, I think he certainly earned his place in that top 3. So he posted this shortly after the finals, and he said, "Congratulations to Kamal El Gargni, Max Charles, and KBJ IFBB Pro, Fred Biggie Smalls, and all the competitors. It was a great show, and we battled our butts off. Steve Weinberger told me to post this picture. This was 10 days ago. I was in the hospital on the strongest antibiotics you can have, due to a deadly infection in my leg. You can see the difference. My wife didn't want me to do the show because she saw how worn out the antibiotics had me and what a long trip this would be. But I'm stubborn and I never quit, so we came anyway, and with all sorts of delays and mishaps, my last dose of antibiotics was 4 days ago, so for people talking about my ab control, this is a big reason. Not to take away from anyone in the show, but I was really beat up physically from the infection, meds, and travel, and I was told by the judges it was a 1-point difference for second between him and Max Charles, and it was my lower ab that was the issue. Well, antibiotics will do that to you. It destroys your gut. No excuses, but you best believe I'm coming to the Mr. O guns a-blazing, down but never out. So that's why when discussing the top three, I was mostly talking about Kamal and Max, because I had seen this post from Phil, and I was going to talk about how I felt like his midsection control was lacking. But I saw this post, and he addressed this here, and I think it's very impressive. The way that he looked, considering that he was dealing with this infection right before the show, in my opinion, is pretty impressive. So shout out to Phil Klahar, and he's on his way now to the regular Mr. Olympia. Now, next up in the news, we got another physique update from Nathan at a couple weeks out from the Italy show. This time showing off his back a little bit more, and this time in a posing video. And I think I pretty much have the same thing to say as when we looked at those pictures the other day that Nathan posted. I think it's pretty clear that Nathan is on track. I think it's pretty clear that a lot of people were wrong when they saw that initial post, that initial posing video of Nathan when he started his prep, and he was getting a lot of criticism for that. But you got to give the guy props. He really turned his physique around over the course of this prep, and he looks really dialed into me. But honestly, so does Regan, and so does Blessing. I think it's going to be a real battle between these guys. I don't think it's going to be an easy win for any of them, and I have a feeling none of them are going to be off. And then today, you got another update from Regan as well. And to me, this update, just like all the others, he looks really, really full. He looks really big. And I think the thing that I see a lot with Regan, especially when I talk about him in a video, is a lot of people are very pessimistic about how he's going to do when he competes. And I think it's a little bit to do with the boy who cried wolf type of phenomena. The fact that he's posted really impressive pictures before leading up to a show and then didn't do well at all. So I think the fact that that has happened more than once, a couple of times, people are a little bit hesitant to say, oh, Regan looks really good in these updates. He's got a real chance here. But honestly, I do feel like this time around, it's a little bit different. Especially after I saw those pictures of him from the back. And I saw just the density of his back and those deep, separated hamstrings. He looks really good. I want to think that he's going to look really good on stage. And I want to think he's got a chance at winning this thing and getting back to the Olympia stage. So that's what I'm going to think. But let me know what you guys think in the comment section down below. So I think that's going to wrap it up for the video, guys. Let me know what you guys thought about the results of the 2023 Masters Olympia Men's Open Bodybuilding portion. What do you think about the top three? What do you think about the placings? All that good stuff. Make sure you like the video, subscribe to the channel, click that bell notification icon if you have not already. And as always, I love you guys. I appreciate you guys. Nick Strength and Power, signing out. All right, guys, don't forget to click that like button and subscribe to this channel if you enjoy the content. Also, check out my Instagram at Nick Strength Power. My Facebook page, which is simply Nick Strength and Power. My secondary YouTube channel, Nick Strength and Vlogs, for vlogs and bonus content that you will not see on this channel. And consider subscribing to my third YouTube channel, Nick Strength and Pokemon, which is all things Pokemon and trading card games, completely unrelated to this channel. So if you're into that, give that one a look. And all links to merchandise and social media will be in the description box below. If you guys want a Nick Strength and Power t-shirt, that will be in the Shopify link below. Have a great day.